When I came to Ireland, after a while, I kind of started making dolls again as a hobby, and then other people said like, oh, but maybe others will be interested in it, so I started selling them.
I sold them for a good number of years in the shop. I seem to remember they used to get in unmerciful tangles, and it was always a great excuse to pass about half an hour trying to untangle the strings of the puppets.
I think because it was different and new, it created a big stir. Like in newspapers, people liked the images. They were quite attractive images, so I suppose it was good for the newspaper. And it's been also a few times on the television. One of the last commissions I did was for Waterford Crystal to recreate the whole factory floor in miniature, and the dolls were about maybe 50 centimetres tall. And Waterford Crystal had to create a whole new range of glass to fit that size, which was the most amazing project. Fortunately, not too long after that, I became ill, so I had to give up my doll making. But a month ago, I worked on a doll that I started 5 years ago, but I hadn't been able to finish, and I have finished it now, and I was really quite proud to get back into it again. In the beginning, I only had like a lot of physical problems of being really tired. Could sleep at a whim, just suddenly. Feeling overall just very, very ill, like a really bad flu, which doesn't go away, or some people describe it as a bad hangover, but I haven't had many of them, so I don't know. It was a few months later I had the first attack of muscle pain. It kind of started for me anyway, it started at my toes, and it just slowly crept up into the rest of my body, and that was after a 5-minute walk or something. Then another good while later, my brain functions got affected. I couldn't remember very well, I couldn't read, I couldn't write. Coordination went completely wrong. Very clumsy, like if you tried to get home and you tried to get the key in the door, you really had to kind of, really focus and say, well, now it's going to go in, and you tried to get it in the door. I would write down a note, and then the following day or later on I'll see the note and I cannot understand what I actually have written, because letters from the second word might end up in the first word. I don't really know how I went through that time, how I actually spent my time, probably mostly resting and sleeping or something, but you lose yourself in that, like you don't know who you are anymore at that stage.
I mean, I would never have believed that a human being could be so overtaken with tiredness, to the extent that they wouldn't be able to maybe lift a spoon up to their mouth, kind of, I mean, when things were bad with Corina, they were that bad.
I think she uses her ME as to her advantage. I never really understood the phrase of people making the most of their weaknesses, but she really has done that, and she's becoming a wiser, a deeper person through her illness,
And one day I saw her in the streets here in Dungarvan, and it was the first time I actually saw her in a wheelchair. And that made me take a step back, because I have visions of her running into the cathedral in Lismore because she was late for a concert. I remember that. She may not remember that. And suddenly here she was in a wheelchair. And then she began speaking to me about her illness and how she was taking a journey through that illness. And I've always been very struck in terms of her mindset, that she doesn't really concentrate on her disability, but it's her ability to do what she can.
Boy, did she have to be creative with the illness. She went on so many journeys in her head and in her mind and stuff when she could not put her feet under her, or she could go nowhere. A lot of people in a similar situation, I think they would have been absolutely trapped. I'd say she's probably one of the most inspirational people I've ever met.
She's one of the only friends I have that actually would notice so many things in her back garden. She spends a lot of time there when it's warm enough. You really become aware of what's around you, just the gentle sounds of birds, and just her observations of colours in the garden and insects, and just the things that maybe the rest of us actually pass by every day.
I can really relate my whole illness to the process of an egg hatching, being a nestling, be a small little bird in a nest which still needs care, but which is fully grown, to flying lessons, leaving the nest occasionally, but still under guidance. If anybody came near me with a virus, I would get really, really ill from that. So I need a lot of protection, the eggshell protection. When I first started drawing, like about 4 years ago, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, it would, I might have 5 or 10 minutes of energy, 5 minutes I'd say, to get a rough sketch on paper. As time progressed, I could paint for maybe half an hour. It's sometimes very hard when you get very excited about a painting and you want to see the finished piece of it, to stop after half an hour. You just want to keep going. The very first one was a cobweb with a spider in it and a hen against the window, and I think the cobweb might have been free and I haven't been, or maybe I was afraid that I was getting caught in the cobweb. I'm not sure what the meaning of it was. Then slowly I started using watercolour. Then I was introduced into acrylics and making collages, so that's I had great fun with that. And lately I'm much more adventurous with colour. I love to use the colour cobalt blue. It's just, it's a healing colour, it's a soothing colour.
For me, it's great to see the progression of what she has actually done and the story it tells. That's the real strength of the work.
Corina's real talent as an artist is how she communicates so clearly. When you're talking to her, she doesn't muck about. She gets to the point straight away. And she's very articulate. And, obviously she writes a lot and everything else, but this is really filtered into her work. And as much as she's only new to the medium of paint, she's saying what she wants to say in paint very clearly.
I wanted to have fun. I wanted to go away. So I made this kite, a drawing of a kite with a very big sun behind it.